Hello and welcome back to the Out of Bounds podcast, episode 25. Anyway, sorry for doing that. How was everyone's weekend? Huh? Did you have a good weekend? I hope you did, because I had a very great weekend. It actually is the start of Monday, being 12:26 a.m. So, and I have a job interview in less than 9 hours, so that is gonna be exciting. I haven't gotten to sleep yet. Alright, so USFL, let's talk about it. Why I had a great weekend. Every single game I predicted came true. I recently joined a betting app. I'm not gonna name which app in particular it was, but basically I joined. They gave me a free $50 to bet with, like a free bet. It's not like they gave me actual money that I could like just deposit from my account. But I put that $50, bet it all on a 3-game parlay this week. It was all the games except for the Stars game, although I did predict the Stars to win because they went up against the Panthers, who suck. And I mean, the Stars aren't much better, but we'll get into that later. All three of them came true. I bet on the New Orleans Breakers, who won. I bet on the New Jersey Generals, who won. And I bet on the Stallions, who won. And that turned my $50 free bet into $150 in real life. And I could just deposit that money right now. Therefore, I am very knowledgeable. Now you see, I am very knowledgeable when it comes to the USFL. So, all of you that are like, your rankings are wrong. Obviously, they're not, because if you followed my rankings last week, you could have became a rich man like me. I'm not really rich. All I have is $100-something. Anyway, all right. Let's get into this week's breakdown. Also, before we start the video, I just want to say there was an Eagles analyst who's been covering the Eagles for 53 years, longer than I was alive, more than 30 years than I've been alive. Ray Didinger, who was an Eagles analyst for a very long time, has retired at the age of 75. I want to give a shout out to him. Did a great job covering the Eagles. Always watched him before and after the game on NBC Sports Philadelphia, how he would break down the Eagles game. So just want to shout out Ray Didinger. Happy retirement. Hope you have a nice life watching your grandchildren. Alright, so let's now jump right into the breakdown of the power rankings this week for the USFL. Number 8 coming in as the Pittsburgh Molars. No surprise. I wouldn't even be surprised if they didn't win a single game this year. So the USFL draft works like they'll have one round where you can only draft like wide receivers, and then like the next round it'll be like running backs or QBs or something, basically. So it doesn't work like the NFL draft where you can pick any selection if you're the number 1 overall pick. I think you should just give the number 1 overall pick each round to the Pittsburgh Molars, because they need it, because they are absolutely garbage. I don't know if it's the coach or if it's because they lost that running back that didn't want to have chicken salad and he wanted to have pizza. I don't know. It's just really bad. Alright, let's continue. Alright, yeah, Pittsburgh Molars coming in at number 8. They had bad QB play. The QB had 169 yards with 15 completions. The completion percentage was 46.9%. The run game was decent at best. They had a touchdown. Their best rusher had 43 yards with 5 carries. Why they didn't give him the ball more often, I do not know. I am not the coach. Maybe they should replace me with the coach. I would accept the job. Also, if any of you USFL teams are listening, you need a running back, QB, wide receiver, tight end, I'm right here. Give me the call. Defense wasn't much better. They only had 4 tackles for loss. So as you can see, both the offense and the defense not doing too good. They faced up against the New Jersey Generals this week. Coming in at number 7, we have the Michigan Panthers. and their QB was terrible. He had 1 TD to 3 interceptions. He also had a rushing touchdown, so I guess that's also props to him, but still not much better. He had a 52.9 completion percentage and only 69 yards passing the ball. Like, now I know I can do better than that. I just know for a fact. Just let me call the plays, and I can promise you I'll do better than that. I'm sorry, Patterson, but I, I truly believe I am better than you. I don't want to judge at all or make any illegitimate conclusions, but that is my best reasoning. The run game was good, though. They had 2 touchdowns, and their best rusher had over 150 yards, a TD, on only 12 carries. Why didn't they hand the ball off to him more? I do not know. Although, to be fair, they did go up against the Philadelphia Stars, who I've been saying since week 1 have a terrible rushing defense. They cannot stop the run at all. So if you want to beat the Stars, all you have to do is run the ball. Why didn't their coach just run the ball? Actually, I think it's the offensive coordinator whose job it is to call the offensive plays, because their coach is a defensive-minded guy. He's the only guy I know from the NFL. His name's blanking on me right now, but it'll probably come back to me later. He was the coach of the Rams, and he also coached the Titans, and that Titans team actually went to the Super Bowl, but that was before I was born. I think that was in the early 90s or maybe in even the 80s. But yeah, he's an old guy, but I mean, he's not the oldest head coach in the league, and he still looks good for his age. Okay, defense was good. They had 2 sacks, 5 tackles for loss, 1 interception, and 1 forced fumble. I think that's a pretty good defense. Now, coming in at number 6 is the Philadelphia Stars. The QB played well, especially due to the fact that he was a backup. Their main QB, Scott, he went down with a knee injury last week, and it looks like he's not going to be able to play for the rest of the season. So this backup is probably going to be their starting QB for the rest of the season. He had a 73.3 completion percentage, 190 yards, and he only had 8 incompletions on 30 attempts, which is pretty good. He had 2 passing touchdowns, 1 interception. The run game was okay. The best rusher had 62 yards on 11 attempts. The defense was good. They had 2 sacks, 6 tackles for loss, and 3 interceptions. And like I said before, they went up against the Michigan Panthers. So that's why I didn't move them up from last week, was because they faced a bad team. Like, when I'm making these rankings, I also take into account the teams they face and their strengths. So yeah, they only faced the Michigan Panthers, which isn't much better. All right. Houston Gamblers. Now, the Houston Gamblers only have 1 win, but I put them higher than the Philadelphia Stars because they went up against the New Orleans Breakers, and I saw them doing a better... I'd say they had a better game than the Philadelphia Stars, because actually the Philadelphia Stars were about to lose the game. And it was a 20-yard field goal for the Michigan Panthers, down by 1 point. This field goal wins them the game, and their kicker could not make this 21-yard field goal. If you need a kicker, I'm here. I'm just saying, I'd like to get back into the football action. I don't got much going on for me right now. All right, so Houston Gamblers. QB was decent. He had 53.8% completion percentage, 127 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions. The run game was absolutely horrendous. They had 1 running back who had 14 attempts and only 10 yards. Let me repeat that again for you. 14 attempts and only 10 yards. He's not even averaging 1 yard per attempt. The defense played well with 2 sacks, 5 tackles for loss, 3 interceptions, and 1 forced fumble. So the defense did play well. They came close to beating the New Orleans Breakers. It literally came down within the final minute of the game. However, the Houston Gamblers were unable to stop the Breakers from scoring that final touchdown, and they could not produce on their final drive. So that's how the game ended for the Gamblers. Tampa Bay Bandits coming in at number 4. QB was okay. He had a 59.1% completion percentage. He had 125 passing yards, 1 TD to 0 interceptions. However, the run game was bad. Their best running back had 11 attempts with only 18 yards. I'll repeat that again for you because I also pointed out the bad running back from the last team. 11 attempts with only 18 yards. Now, he is getting more than 1 yard per attempt on average, but it's still very, very, very bad. And that's their best running back, may I remind you. The defense played okay with 4 sacks and 5 tackles for loss. You might be wondering why I have them at number 4. Well, they did go up against the Birmingham Stallions, who are the best team in the USFL, so that is why. Now, this one might come as a shocker. I have at number 3 the New Orleans Breakers. Now, in week 1 and 2, I had them as like the best team in the USFL, and I said I wouldn't be surprised if they went to the playoffs or the championship for the USFL South. However, I do not believe they are going to be going to the championship. I think it will be the Birmingham Stallions. The New Orleans Breakers really had a downturn in recent weeks. They did win this game, but the QB play was shaky. He had a 61.9 completion percentage, 1 TD, 3 interceptions, although he did have almost 400 passing yards. So that props to him. It's Kyle Slaughter. He was in the NFL for a bit. I remember him. But yeah, he had 61.9 completion percentage is not that great, and obviously the 3 interceptions is not good at all, but he did have almost 400 passing yards, which I think he leads the USFL in passing yards, so I can't bang on him too much. The run game was good with their best rusher having 19 attempts, 104 yards and 1 TD. I wish they just would have ran the ball more. Like, there was at one point where they got into field goal range, and like Kyle Slaughter threw this great pass that was like 50 yards, got them into field goal range while they were down by 3 with less than 2 minutes left of the game. And instead of just running the ball to get closer to that field goal range and hopefully get first downs and run out the clock and hopefully score a touchdown, they instead just had Kyle Slaughter like pass it all 3 times, and it was an incompletion each time. I was like, Coach, what are you doing? But the defense was terrible for them. They had 5 tackles for loss and 1 forced fumble. In previous weeks, I praised the New Orleans Breakers for having an absolutely great defense. I said their defense is probably the reason why they will win their division. However, their defense was extremely lackluster today, and they faced the Tampa Bay Bandits, who aren't that good of a football team. So, I don't even know. Oh, wait, no, they didn't face the Tampa Bay Bandits. They faced the Houston Gamblers, my bad. But yeah, the Houston Gamblers, and that's not a good football team. They only have 1 win, so it's bad for the New Orleans Breakers. I'm not really liking the future, although I do like their coach. I do like their quarterback, but they really got to make some improvements. Coming in at number 2, I have the New Jersey Generals. I was really impressed by the New Jersey Generals. Now, I know you're probably going to be like, they faced the Pittsburgh Molars. Pittsburgh Molars are the worst team in the USFL, undisputed. I understand that. But through recent weeks, they really impressed me. Now, you got to remember, in week 1, they were beating the Birmingham Stallions for most of the game. It was only very up until the last quarter in which the Birmingham Stallions took the lead and won that game. For the New Jersey Generals, their QBs played well, combining for 20 completion. They had 20 out of 24 completions, meaning they only had 4 incompletions together, making it an 83.3 completion percentage, which is really good. 200 passing yards, 1 TD, and 0 interceptions. The run game was okay altogether, combining for 32 attempts and 113 yards and 2 touchdowns, but altogether averaged 3.5 yards per carry, which isn't that great, although some of you may be like, if you have 3.5 yards per carry and run it each play, you'll get a first down every time. I understand that, but you can't always rely on that. Defense played really bad with only 1 sack and 2 tackles for loss. Yeah, I was not impressed by the New Jersey Generals defense at all, especially considering that they faced the Pittsburgh Molars, who have one of the worst offenses and defenses in the league. All right, coming in first place as no surprise, Birmingham Stallions continuing the undefeated streak. The QB was good, especially for a backup. I don't really know what happened to their QB1, but this guy was actually their QB1 in week 1. But then, obviously, Smith, their backup, came in and won them the game against the New Jersey Generals and has been their starter henceforth. So this guy is good for, especially for being a backup. He had an 83.6 completion percentage, 126 yards, 1 rushing TD. The run game was good with 31 attempts, 126 yards, averaging for 4.1 yards per carry. The defense was okay. They had 3 sacks and 6 tackles for loss. So defense wasn't spectacular. They did go up against the Tampa Bay Bandits, who are a better team than most. I remember a lot of people were like, this Tampa Bay Bandits team is absolutely incredible because they beat the Pittsburgh Molars by so much in the opening weekend of the USFL. But no, guys, I said it back then. I don't think the Tampa Bay Bandits are going to be one of these teams that is going to win that division or is in conversation to win that division. And I was right, bruh. So I know you all are probably very mad for me for saying bruh. I know I say that a lot on the podcast, but it's part of my language. But yeah. Alright, so I think that's going to be it for this week of the USFL power breakdowns. That's really all I have to say about this week's edition. I did watch the games. They are enjoyable, so if you are an NFL fan tuning in, you don't have a USFL team in your city and you're wondering who to root for and you just want to be a bandwagoner, go with the Birmingham Stallions. I understand that you don't have a team in your city to root for, so you might as well start rooting for someone, and then if they expand the USFL later, they'll maybe go to your city. I do think they will expand after this season because I do think they are exceeding expectations, or I should say meeting expectations, or I could be completely wrong and they're not meeting expectations at all. But I do think they are, and I made some bread this week, and I think you may be able to make some bread using my weekly breakdowns. Now, I can't promise that you guys will make money if you bet using my layout of which teams are best. Although what I can say is that I did do a perfect ranking last week. I think I did a good ranking this week, but only time will tell. We'll know in a week from now. I will say, though, although I'm like saying I did so great this past week, 2 weeks ago, I did a 3-leg parlay on the USFL, and I got every single one of those games wrong. Although maybe I'm trending in the right direction now with guessing all 4 of those games correctly this week. I also did a 4-game parlay for $2, and that gave me $11. Why I didn't just combine the $2, I think it was just because I wanted to do a 4-game parlay, but I didn't want to risk all $50 that I was given by this gambling service. I'm not going to say the gambling service or promote it because I am not sponsored by them. If they want to sponsor me, any of you gambling services, I would be down to sponsor you, especially if I really like your rates. But then again, I do have to like what you got. So as a gambler myself, likes to bet on sports, I gotta like what I see. So I'm not just gonna give my viewers some trashy gambling thing. I am committed to you guys. And with that being said, I'll see you next week. Or if you're watching Wednesday or Saturday, then I'll see you then. But I'll see you sometime.